a Pakka Malayali, now based out of Delhi. I am welcoming Vinita Srinivasan to Women of GSV. Welcome, Vinita.
Vinita Hariharan.
Yeah, Vinita Hariharan. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, hello Nandini. Thank you so much. Thank you GSB for calling me here. So, I'm Vinita Hariharan, and I'm basically now a public policy person at the national level. So I started off as an engineer in 95, and then after my engineering I realized that I did not want to really. I was a civil engineer, so I was not interested in restricting myself to just designing buildings and bridges.
Okay.
So then I moved on to do my master's in urban planning from the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi.
Okay.
And so I was very, I was quite fascinated by the macro level issues that urban planning was covering, and looking at a whole holistic picture of policy making and all. So then I after that course, it was a very rigorous course in the School of Planning, which is not a traditional method of teaching. It was more of doing.
Okay.
And, actually
More of
practical insights into architecture and planning and policies and all that. And after that, it was a very, very rigorous academic schedule. And after that, I was like very strong. I was ready that we could do any work or any job after that. So, but
your confidence level was
very high. Yeah.
Okay.
So immediately after that, I wrote this exam for HUDCO and all, and I got into HUDCO, and then I was there for a decade. There we were doing appraisal and monitoring of large-scale housing and infrastructure projects across the country, basically focusing on Tamil Nadu and Delhi, the two places where I was posted. And after 10 years, I got to do a very iconic project for the master plan for Kochi city with the Kochi Corporation, where HUDCO was supporting them to make a master plan. So I did it in a very different way, in which we were consulting with, we were actually doing stakeholder consultations very frequently with the councillors, ward councillors, and with the mayor, and with all other departmental people. But there was tremendous resistance for change.
Lot of bottlenecks.
And so at that time I was very bogged down by this whole, everything was at a standstill in India, I felt at that time, 2010.
Okay.
Nothing was moving, infrastructure bottlenecks and developmental issues, and I was very frustrated, and I said, I want to know what is happening across the country, across the world, beyond India. How are other countries grappling with these situations? And that's when I applied for this course at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy and Administration. And in Singapore.
Okay.
And fortunately, I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, and I got admission very quickly there for a 1 year and masters. So I took a sabbatical and I went there and pursued a masters, and that was a paradigm shift in my entire perspective. And I realized how other countries are grappling. We could understand how they are dealing with those
especially countries like Singapore, which are very similar to the Indian terrain and Indian atmosphere.
Yeah, which is why I didn't want to do a Western university course, because whatever you learn in the Western countries are not really applicable in India.
Yeah.
So I was not very enamored by America, where everybody, my batch and everyone was in the US.
Harvard,
So somehow, but those theories don't really work in India. So
that's something very relevant, and even I have thought, for a country like India, how can American rules and such policies can be utilized and implemented in countries like India, which is very underdeveloped, and a huge gap between both the countries and in almost all the spheres, right?
Yes.
Not only infrastructure, but almost all the levels, like the economy and all things are very different. So how can you really apply those kind of teachings here?
Absolutely. So that's very true. So that's why, and this one also had an affiliation with the Harvard Kennedy School, but although it was tailor-made for Southeast Asian countries. So that way it was a very aligned geography, and so I understood that how those countries were also grappling with similar issues such as in India. But the way they tackled it was through a very effective stakeholder management.
Yeah, that can be seen in Singapore. It's a world-class country.
So city-state as they call it. So
Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah, in Singapore also, so it's all about how Singapore City was planned and how they followed those plans. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of
It's not only planning but implementation.
implementation was
Yeah.
record, and that was because, I mean, of course, it is not a democracy; it's a authoritarian regime, so enforcement was easier in such a small
Yeah.
country. But at least if one state could replicate the Singapore model, then all
Yeah,
our
Kerala
states.
is bigger than Singapore for that matter,
Yeah.
but nothing is happening here.
Correct. Yeah. So after that, then I came back, and fortunately, I got opportunities to work with the government of India
Mhm.
in directly in applying whatever I learned at the public in Singapore, and framing policies and formulating national programs, starting with the Housing and Urban Development Ministry, where I was framing the slum-free city plans for India.
You had a stint with World Bank in between.
That was with DFID, the British
Okay.
UK government funding.
Okay.
So the UK government was funding the housing ministry for poverty alleviation.
Mm.
Part of that program was making slum-free cities, and so
Okay.
I was in charge of making the entire guidelines and disseminating that across the country.
Mm.
And after that, then that regime changed, and the new regime came in. And under this government, I got a very golden opportunity to work for the National Rural Mission. It was to formulate that policy, Urban Mission, formulate Shama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, formulated from scratch, because it was under the old framework of Pura. It was provision of urban amenities in rural area, Abdul Kalamji's vision, but it was not being implemented successfully in the UPA regime because there were a lot of bottlenecks on the ground, and there was a lot of private sector participation envisaged, and private sector was not able to really do things so well. So the Prime Minister wanted a new vision for this, and so I was roped in from the World Bank to lead that whole team. And we then formed a new policy and a new program. So PM had a vision of identification of these clusters based on certain criteria, and so we then made it into a scientific methodology, and 300 clusters were then identified scientifically, and every state was given to choose from 20 clusters. 20 to 50 clusters list was given based on a scientific selection, and then the state could then choose which cluster they wanted in which district.
Okay. So how was what difference did the earlier regime and the present regime? You worked with both, right? So what was the difference you could see in the implementation level than in the political? Of course, the interference will always be there, but how was it? How did you feel as an implementer? And
implementation was. I was very impressed with the implementation of this government, which was record speed. It was on a mission mode that things move.
Okay.
And I was working under a very dynamic joint secretary at that time, Aparajita Sarangi madam, who is now the
Odisha MP?
now she's the
Bhubaneswar.
Lok Sabha MP from
Yeah.
Bhubaneswar.
Okay.
Very dynamic lady who also gave me a lot of empowerment and gave me the wings to do my things the way I wanted to. She
So
gave
you
me
were given freedom to
complete free hand in the urban mission, and so that is when I realized my leadership potential. Actually, actualized my potential under her leadership. And so that is what leadership is about, nurturing other leaders.
Yeah.
So she did that for me, and so in this new regime, what I appreciated was the clock-wise precision in which they do things, and the mission mode things were moving. So which is what I was very happy to. So after that, then 3 years down the line, I had set up systems and processes in place across the country, and there was nothing much more for me to do.
Okay. So spanning about 20 years in the governmental department sphere, how do you assess yourself as an achiever, a women achiever, and what words of inspiration do you have for the coming gen or somebody who's looking upon you as an inspirer? Especially given the Kerala background.
Right. So I would always tell women to move beyond what they are seeing in their immediate context, and read and find out how things are happening in other states and other countries, and always go beyond your comfort zone. It's always easy to just settle down in Kerala and be in the comfort of your home. So I mean, there will be a time when you will want to come back. Like now, I am at that stage where I want to, after seeing the whole world, I want to come back to Kerala and do something for my state. That's a different story when you are coming equipped with a lot of exposure and learning. But right from your college days, you shouldn't try to just be comfortable in your own state, and or if you get those kind of opportunities here, that is okay. But we still haven't reached a stage, I think, where we can, really realize our potential.
Comparatively, Kerala is more literate and things like that are being spoken about Kerala, and the girl education is in no par with the northern states. But still, Kerala is much backward in respect with the women empowerment, if I can say so. They're not given the actual, go. You just say go and go. There are no go-getters, if I can say so. No go-getters, because do you think the societal framework has something to do with their, or their upbringing has something to do with this? Because a lot of talents are being wasted.
I think there is some kind of restriction that way in terms of what women can do, and the kind of progressive way in which, or that go-getter kind of you said. I think that is missing a lot. But
because here, generally, what I get to say is, we have very, very good and intelligent students academically, but you go to Delhi and places like Mumbai and all that. They may not be academically very performing also, but they are really street smart, if I can say so. That's something which we are lacking in Kerala. Our girls are not street smart, if I can say.
Very true. Actually, I faced a similar problem, because my education was in Calcutta and all that, but when I came to Kerala, initially I was feeling a little constrained. But then, of course, it was in the framework of the engineering college, and so I was able to explore myself. But after, from engineering, when I went to Delhi School of Planning, again I felt very constrained. I felt that people are so smart, the girls are so smart, and I was so shy, and I was feeling that I'm not good enough, But then I challenged myself, and within 6 months I was able to become.
That is the challenge our girls should take up. That's what I have to tell you. Given her instance and given her experience, our girls should be able to challenge themselves to face the society and go out of their comfort zone and go get the things done for whichever they are striving for. And as a parent, all the ladies, please try and support your girl child. Okay, Vinita, continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Very true. So so every challenge, will make me stronger actually. So I sometimes, and after some time, it became that I need a challenge to actually perform. So if somebody tells me that no, you're not good enough, you can't do this, then I take it up as a challenge and prove that person wrong, that no, I will do it and show you that I can do it. So that has been, I think, one of my, I feel that mantras for whatever success I've achieved.
Okay.
So,
So, again, a personal question, Vinita. Do you have any political ambitions?
Actually, from the Lee Kuan Yew, when you study and get trained there, the motto is, be the change you want to see.
So be the change you want to see.
Right. So in any country, I think the political frameworks actually give you that space to really bring about change, to effect change, and so yes, that way, if you say yes, political frameworks is an aspirational goal.
So given the present political scenario, you should be really jumping into politics given a chance.
Given a chance, of course, I will try my hand.
Given a chance, again, that comes in the brackets.
Yes.
But how far would you go to get a chance?
No, I would follow the, I would not take the back door or any kind of methods out of devious methods, but on my own merit, and if people feel that, I am merit worthy, and I would definitely try it out. Because as I had mentioned to you about Aparajita Sarangi madam, she also followed the political course after her bureaucratic stint. So and she's doing very well for herself. So I follow her example also. You know that as a bureaucrat, she's able to get into the political sphere. It is very different from a bureaucratic framework. No? It is very unpredictable. It's
Yeah.
quite ambiguous and all. So you should be ready for those kind of
Yeah.
unprecedented challenges which it will throw.
So you have equipped yourself to face such challenges.
It would be a different challenge if given a chance, of course. But like given my track record in facing challenges, I think I'll be able to do this. also.
In politics, it's a different challenge.
Yes.
Politics is a different ball game, and
Yes.
it's a different challenge from the way you
Yes,
had worked.
Yes.
Of course, your experience in the Singapore University has maybe you're out towards it.
Yeah, and the ministries and the exposure, the urban where I could interface with various political authorities and all that. But still, it's a framework within which you work. But politics is a different ball
Yeah.
game altogether.
Yeah. So, given a seat to contest from Kerala for the coming election as an MP, would you take it up?
MLA. This is
Yeah.
MLA. I mean, definitely I would take up the challenge if I'm given a chance because I think if given the mandate and the role, I'll be able to do really good for that particular constituency. So definitely I would take up the challenge. Although, I mean, because at every stage in life, I look for new canvases. So, like from engineering to planning, and then to policy making, and now I'm kind of saturated with national level policy making and program formulation, and I want to come back.
So now it's from the macro level, now it's into the grassroots level. What she's doing. So she's heading a sanstha called Sankasa, or a trust called Sankasa Foundation, through which she's trying to bring about the so-called social change given her experiences.
Yes. Yes.
How do you think you could bring about the changes?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Sankasa Foundation, actually the name, if I would just take a second to explain the name, because the name sounds a little catchy. So Sankasa is actually the place where Buddha is, Buddha after getting enlightenment, he preached to his mother Maya in heaven and came back to this place called Sankasa and preached Buddhism, and from there Buddhism spread to the whole world. That's a mythical concept, but so it is symbolic that my talks and my dialogues that I plan to hold through this foundation will actually bring about that kind of a global awareness about issues. So what I plan to do through Sankasa Foundation is I want to hold, beginning with focus group discussions with the grassroots level functionaries, block level, district level, and state level officers.
Bring it to the national
level. Like yesterday, 2 days back, I had a dialogue with the Labour Commissioner of the state. So I understood, and he is also the Secretary for Water Resources. So I understood the issues in the labour and in the water department in Kerala, especially given the recent floods and all. So I now the kind of story that he has narrated, I would like to take it up at the national level and show them that this is what is happening in Kerala. So once I chose only Kerala now because it's my home state, and once I get traction here, I would like to replicate it in different parts of this country.
Okay, so how far do you think, if you are offered a BJP ticket in the government, Kerala's framework now and the political thinking is not very conducive for BJP, but things are changing, I know, for good. How do you think you can bring in a change given a given a BJP ticket?
So see, my mantra would be developmental, because my
development is always a collective effort.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you think politically you can bring in the changes the Keralites want or are looking for?
Yeah. So I'm saying what I'm trying to say is BJP government also, I would like to bring in all the programs and things that they're doing at the national level and increase the level of awareness in the state, and also try to see how people can take benefit out of these programs and policies that the national government is actually rolling out. We should not be left out of the whole canvas, you know. So that is something that through the BJP government, because at the national level you have the BJP government. So even at the state level, if you have this tremendous amount of benefit that the state can gain, in terms of all the schemes and programs and bringing in a lot of developmental progress. So if I come in, I would definitely like to take this forward. And it will be a developmental plan that I would like to project myself, not any other.
Yeah, being
ideology.
an MLA, you might face destructive thinking and from your fellow. Because in Kerala, BJP is just an upcoming party. Given those circumstances, with your vision brought fresh from the central government, bringing up an awareness, do you think you could perform singularly?
No, singularly, of course, I will not be able to perform. So it has to be through. Like in Lee Kuan Yew, we studied this philosophy called co-opt the enemy. So co-opt the enemy, so make friends with your enemies also, and try to include every other person into the framework and into the developmental story.
So cooperate with the enemy and go forward is her mantra, right?
Co-opt, like include all of them. And
so inclusive of the enemies.
Yeah, like some Honorable Prime Minister also, Sabka Saath,
Sabka Saath, Sabka
So
Vikas.
that is the whole policy actually.
Okay. So another question is, though Kerala is supposed to be very women friendly and women literate and a lot of things to boast over, but in the political scenario, it's the other way around. Do you think that will curtail or that will limit or even that will give you a second thought from entering the political scenario? Because the politics in Kerala now is full of ladies, Sarita, Swapna, and do you think it's going to hinder your progress in being a political aspirer from Kerala?
No, I think Sarita and Sapna are different examples. They are not political people. They
not
are
at all.
not political people.
Yeah.
So I think that example is not correctly placed.
Because I've heard stories of very good political aspirants shying away because of this kind of
okay.
What is your message for?
No, I think these are all, they're all victims of a lot of scams and a lot of conspiracy theories, and I don't know why Kerala has to always make women the subject of all, This is extremely painful to see this trend in the state, and I'm really appalled actually at the state of affairs in the state as to how they can make a women character, Kadapatram as you say, and they always somehow come out with this kind of women characters to malign the forces that be, So isn't that going against the concept of womanhood itself? You're supposed to be a progressive state, and is this how you bring up things, and at the end of every political regime we can hear stories like this, and where the central protagonist is a woman. It's really sad, and my heart bleeds for this state, that such a literate state, such a progressive state, this is the state of affairs. I mean, it's a real shame actually for the country.
So what Vinita says is whoever aspires, I know there are a lot of lady aspirers in the political scenario from Kerala who can do very well, really very well, given their educational background, their outlook towards the society, and their experience. But somehow they're not brought into the foray.
Yes.
So given a chance, I think we all should grab.
Definitely,
and see that we do something for Kerala. Do you think, again I'm asking you, if tomorrow Modi ji comes and offers you a ticket?
I mean, Modi ji will not, of course, but
Nadaji for that.
whoever offers me, I'll be very glad.
Okay.
obviously they won't. I mean, I have to aspire and strive for it.
Yeah, but still, if you're, see, somebody from the party, the same, happens to see our video, and I hope Vinita's offered a ticket. And so when I say that, please don't take it as a political canvassing or something like that. I was just being very frank about the scenario. And one more thing, Vinita, I have a group called, as you're aware, Women of GSB, run in the FB. It's for the betterment of the thinking, from the thinking, and to the wholesome betterment of women, and empowerment, if I can call it. About the thinking, about the scenario we are in, about the society as a whole, about being a GSB woman. So, how far do you think being in GSB as a lady, we can strive for a better placement in our society?
Yes, definitely. It's good that you have a group like this, Women of GSP, and there are not many women. I mean, there are women groups, of course, but when women as a collective always perform better than as individuals, because we always need support.
Yeah.
And individually, we have a lot of limitations compared. I mean, even though I've done so much in life, but I realize that as a woman, it's very difficult to do things alone. You need support. You need to bring like-minded women together. So I think that way GSP is a very good platform, and we should try to see how we can take advantage of various other programs that are going on in the country, and connect with other associations, not only women associations but also the MSME associations and other such associations, and connect up with the state and the national level players, and see how we can bring traction into the whole activities of GSP.
Okay, so Vinita is always there to handhold us. If any of our members have any MSME requirements and things like that, she's always there to guide all of us.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So this was a very frank talk with Vinita Hariharan we had, and actually it was nothing to be done with any of her political aspirations or anything, but I wanted my guest to speak from the heart, and I also, as a person, like to speak from the heart. So let all Vinita's dreams come true, and let's see where and what Vinita can do for us. So Vinita, all the best.
Thank you, Nandini, and all the best to you, and I hope you also get platforms for your aspirations.
Yeah.
So we should work together.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank